Hey, what's going on everybody? So I picked up a 2019 Giant Trance 2 this year, and I've done quite a few upgrades and just added a few different aesthetic things to the bike, and I kind of wanted to give you guys a quick look at it. I haven't been able to get out and actually ride the bike on the trails yet this year. The weather just hasn't been permitting of it, and it's just still too wet out. So as the season progresses here, I'm going to do probably a few more different videos just as a review over the bike and just kind of riding videos and show you guys how it performs. I was pretty happy with the way this bike looked overall, but I had plenty of time. I've had plenty of time to add things to it, and I had a little extra money, so I decided to invest in the bike a little bit. So let's just kind of go over the bike and I'll show you some of the things that I've done to it. So as you can see, all of the green on this bike is added. So I'm just going to kind of go over one part at a time. I'll start on the back here and just go through it. So I'm going to leave a little description in the bottom of all of the things that I've swapped out and what brand they are and all that kind of stuff. But starting right here, I swapped out both of the Jockey wheels and also the chain. And then moving into, oh my god, my dog is just going crazy. Pedals here, I did the Race Face Atlas pedals. Two reasons I wanted to go with these was, number one, last year I had the Race Face Chesters. I was pretty impressed with them, but I had heard better things about these pedals. They were a little bit more spendy, but I wanted to give them a shot. Plus they've kind of matched the theme of the bike that I'm going with here with this little green piece here. I also put on the Race Face crank boots, and something that's noteworthy with this is that these pedals do not fit well with crank boots. I actually had to do a little spacer washer in there so that these wouldn't be rubbing on the crank boots and so that they would still spin nice and freely. But I didn't think that was that big of a deal, but it is noteworthy. I also put on the MRP G4 chain guide and bash guard. I'm super impressed with the quality of it. I actually had a different MRP bash guard last year, but I wanted to get this one because it's got this little bogey wheel in here, or a jockey wheel, whatever you want to call it, that kind of brings the tension of the chain up and kind of keeps the chain out of the way instead of having it down just a little bit further. And this one actually comes with, it's called the G-Slide, and it's basically just a little plastic piece that you can swap that wheel out with, and it's for muddy conditions, which I probably won't be riding in too much of that, but if I am, I'll swap it out because it's fairly easy to do, and that's what it's meant for. Another piece that I added onto the bike, and this is again more aesthetic than anything, is this MRP Decapitator. And it's just a little bottle opener, but it replaces the little plastic cap that sits on here, and this piece is basically so if you ever run other gears up front that you can put another derailleur on. So if you don't have that, it's just a little plastic cover that sits on here, so I figured why not put something on there that might have some sort of function. I also added on a Absolute Black was the brand. It's an oval chainring. I did quite a bit of research on the oval chainrings, and it was definitely interesting enough where I thought that for the price I wanted to add one and just see what I think of it. On the flat ground that I've been riding on, I haven't really noticed anything yet. Like I said, I haven't had it on the trails yet. But from what I read, it kind of increases the power stroke because of its shape, and it's supposed to be pretty good for uphill riding and just a little bit more efficient than anything. Another aesthetic piece that I put on here was this seat post clamp. I think it looks pretty nice. And then I'm going to kind of move up to the heads. Actually, you know what? I put on this little cup holder too. It's just, I don't know, it's carbon fiber. I thought it looked kind of nice and had some green on it, so I figured why not. And then I put on a Syncros mud guard. They actually have a different one of these. I can't remember what the other one's called. It is by Syncros though, and it fits up to your Fox fork a little bit cleaner than this one does, but it was not available anywhere online that I could find. So I settled and just kind of went with this one because it was going to be cleaner than some of the other mud guards that are out there. Moving upward on the bike, I put on a few things here. I put on some wolf tooth spacers and the little cap, and then the Renthal setup here. I put on the Renthal grips, Renthal bars, and a Renthal stem. Now the bars are the 31.8s. They're not the 35mm bars, and I did that because last year I had rode with some 35mm bars, and I just felt like they were a little bit too rigid and unforgiving. So my hands kind of felt it at the end of the day, you know, after a long day of riding, and I didn't really care for that. So I ended up going with 31.8s. They're 800 mils long. I might trim those down. We'll see. I know that last year I rode with some 800 mil bars and I trimmed those down, but this is a different bike, so I figured I'll start out with this and see what I think. As far as the grips, I can't really give a good review on them yet, but just on the little bit of riding that I've done around here, they are comfortable and they're super grippy. And then the stem, this is a 31mm long stem, so it's very, very short. It's the shortest you're going to find out there, and that was actually another reason that I went with this particular stem, just because I like the quickness of the steering that you get with a shorter stem. I also added on this wolf tooth dropper post lever, and this is one that I'm actually really impressed with. I added this on there just because two reasons. Number one, it attaches so much more clean because it doesn't have another clamp. It just kind of sits right inside of the brake lever here. And the other reason is just because it's a lot better quality and is super smooth. There's a little bearing in here. I really like it quite a lot, and I couldn't say enough about it. I think it looks nice. It's just going to be really nice to ride with that one. And as you can see, that little bit of orange right there, that is an MRP ramp control cartridge. So it basically replaces your volume spacers, and it gives you a long range of adjustability on it. There's a few videos online that you can find that kind of go through a description of what it does, how it operates, and all that kind of stuff, and some install videos as well, so I'm not going to go real into depth on it. But it is a piece that I'm very excited about because it's just one more piece that I can adjust while riding, just to fine-tune the fork the way that I want it. On this side of the bike, you can see I did some different rotors here, somewhat for performance, but again, mostly just for the aesthetic appeal. It's got that same green on it as kind of I've put on the rest of the bike, and I did that front and back just to keep everything kind of matching. Another thing that I did was I replaced all of the spoke nipples with some DT Swiss spoke nipples, and they're green. It's probably not the easiest to see in this video, but I think they look pretty sharp. And I also did the valve stems, and that's also front and back. And one more thing that I did on the bike that I'm fairly excited about is the green shrink wrap. It didn't have to be green. I could have just gone with black. I almost wish that I would have at this point, just because the green doesn't quite match up the way that I wanted it to. But nonetheless, I think it's a lot cleaner than doing zip ties. I think it looks significantly better, and I think it's going to quiet everything down while riding, and you're not going to have that kind of rattling around of the cables. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. I don't really like hearing my bike while I'm going down the trail, so I think that's going to go maybe not a long ways, but it'll go a little ways anyway. I also added a few green graphics on the bike. You can see them on the fender. Put one on the fork there, a couple on the steering wheel, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed it or not, but I put one on the back here as well. And that wasn't stock on the bike, but I think they look pretty nice, and hopefully they hold up well. If not, I can always just peel them off. So that is my 2019 Giant Trance 2. Let me know what you guys think of that one. And let me know if you guys think there's anything else that I could upgrade on the bike.